Welcome to the Gearwire.com Crosstalk podcast for Friday, August 11th. I'm your host, Mike Payne, and I'm joined by Dan Augusto.
Hello, everybody.
And Britton Weatherald.
Yeah.
Once again, Drew Craig couldn't make it. He will be here with us next week. We all miss him dearly, don't we?
Drew, come back.
Bye, Drew. This week we've got some four more Gearwire videos from NAMM we're going to be taking a look at. First of all, the Alesis Control Pad, which is an 8-pad MIDI controller, sort of similar to Roland's SPD series, but with a much more sexy price point. Next we've got the Novation XioSynth, that's with an X, which is a MIDI controller and synth hybrid. We'll get a better understanding of that in a little bit. We've also got the very lust-worthy summing mixer, API's DSM24 summing box.
That's exciting.
And last, we'll take a look at Italia Guitars, which are some cool retro axes from, guess where? Italy. Last, we've also got another special edition this week. We'll be checking out some free audio effects plugins available on the web. Quick reminder before we get started, the Gearwire Forums are now live. Visit our forums at forums.gearwire.com. Lots of cool topics being discussed. The Gearwire Forum has already picked up a lot of buzz. Join the conversation, join the fun, speak your piece at forums.gearwire.com. All right, so first up, we've got some more Gearwire videos from Summer NAMM we want to take a look at. And let's take a look at the Alesis Control Pad, which again is an 8-pad MIDI controller similar to Roland's RDS series. Let's take a look at that.
Hi, this is Jim Norman from Alesis, live at Summer NAMM. I'm showing you our two new products here. We're showing for the first time. Right here is the Control Pad. It's a brand new control device that we designed. Each one of these pad surfaces can send a separate MIDI note number.
All right, so what do you guys think about that?
Well, the only really exciting thing about it, I believe, is the map price.
Yeah.
$199. I mean, it's a drum trigger that has USB I/O, kind of a useful device, and it comes with BFD, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, I defer to my comrade.
I'm sorry. I was sleeping because I was so bored. This is like completely like them ripping off Roland, which they do over and over over again.
Again, this is $200 versus Roland's, which are $499 and $649.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, I personally, I wanted one of those SPD things for a while.
Yeah.
Just it'd be cool to have, and I don't really have a good drum controller. I just always use my synths.
Yeah.
But this is kind of cool. For $200, I could get what I could get for $499. Now, I've heard about the RDS or the SPDs that they have crosstalk problems. No pun intended. But an old friend of mine had one, and he was getting a lot of crosstalk when he was using it.
Problem is that any company that does the Behringer function is what I like to call it, which is just like take somebody else's design, dumb it down, rip it off until it's something like till basically it's the same thing but cheaper. Doesn't necessarily make it exciting.
Maybe not, but to me it's exciting because it's $200. That's something I can pick up pretty easily.
I understand.
You know, like next week.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm actually an Alesis fan. I like a lot of their gear.
I like their old stuff. I also like the Andromeda. That's a really
it's a good synth.
Awesome synth.
Microverb.
The Micron.
Yeah.
The Nanoverb was...
Yeah, I've got the Ion.
Or was it Nanoverb? Yeah.
No, the Microverb is the little like box that you sit like, you know, you can have on your table. And that thing is awesome. I mean, a lot of records have been made with that. But this is really boring. I mean, just like straight out the gate. I'm sorry. I don't care if it's $5. It's still boring and like promoting pushing the envelope forward. This is just like, hey, we just made something cheaper so everybody else in the world can afford it.
Yeah, I already have a pad, so I'm not going to be picking this up. But there is that issue with crosstalk.
Right.
It didn't seem like that was too bad in the demo. Like, it didn't seem he was having any problems with crosstalk.
Well, probably fixed it with the Alesis version. I mean, like the perfection of design that's already happened. You know what I mean? Like engineers are like, "Oh, right, we just got to take this and now make it better." It's a lot easier to do than when
the one I have is like I don't know, eight or 9 years old. I usually just use it for like just one sound anyway.
Yeah.
Like an electronic like bongo or something like that, or just get weird rolls out of it. So it's not really an issue for me.
You don't cut up Britton samples and put them on different pads and drum them out?
That's an idea.
You're such can it be hot pink?
Tube emulation.
Tube emulation.
All right. Hate it.
Let's take a look at the next video we've got. We'll take a look at the Novation XioSynth, which, again, this is a MIDI controller synth hybrid. Let's take a look.
This actually might be exciting.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Simovic, and I'm going to talk about a brand new Novation product that will be shipping in mid-August. This keyboard is called the XioSynth. It is a small version of our previous product, X-Station. So this unit is an audio interface, MIDI interface, effects processor with 6 different effects. It's a hardware synthesizer with about 200 patches. You also have already pre-mapped templates, and you have 16 of those. Semi-weighted keys. You have an XY pad with 4 simultaneous controls.
Fair.
Did I just mention price?
No, there was no price.
No price mentioned?
No price.
No.
So this is basically the X-Station made a little bit lighter.
It's like the K-Station, just made again.
You said X-Station.
Right, but they made the K-Station a little while ago, which is about the same amount of keys. It was like the A-Station, which was a rack-mounted device, just with
but the
37 keys.
X-Station is the same key span, and it's like the same features, only with more knobs and sliders.
Okay.
I've used this thing quite a bit, so analog modeling's good. Novation's always made good stuff as far as their own synthesizer, sound is concerned. It was really intuitive. It came with patch information, like for software synthesizers, like Native Instrument, Propellerhead, Reason. They already mapped out the knobs for them. So like you could switch through from the X-Station. You could plug this thing into your computer and go, hey, you know what? I'm going to use Reason, and I'm going to like use Subtractor, and you could just select the Subtractor patch within this device, and the MIDI would already map out the whole knobs and sliders and everything else for you.
Right.
Yeah, it was awesome. Because I have an M Audio Radium, and when I try to use them as a MIDI controller, I have to sit there and actually program everything over. And then, like, if I go to a different synth, I have to program those knobs again, and then again, and it's a lot easier.
She said this has an XLR input.
It's an audio interface.
It's audio interface
same
well?
thing with the X-Station.
Okay.
X-Station is an audio interface as well.
So what did you pick up? What was the main reason or main difference between this and the
It's stripped down. If you notice that there's there's only there's knobs across the top, and then there's buttons to select between 2 different options for each one, which makes it basically like a very, very, very light and stripped down version of the X-Station, which is a problem for somebody like me who's a programming nerd and wants as many knobs. If I had my way, I'd have like a modular synth and just be able to tweak and patch and do everything I want. But this is for a user who's like, well, I need room, I need space. This is smaller, and it'll be easier to just like tweak,
and it fits in a backpack.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I believe this is probably right now at the front of like the mini keyboard sort of.
Well, Korg did something really cool, but they don't have sound engines in their controllers, and that's the problem.
Yeah. That's the big difference. This is not only a controller; it has sounds in it. So
yeah. And if you're hard up for an interface, you got that too. I mean, it's a really good. I think it's a good idea. I like Novation's. The difference, all right, I was bashing the tone port last week, all right, which is a similar idea, but like the reason why Novation gets props and the tone port doesn't, as far as audio interface, blah, 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 combo thing, is that Novation actually started back in the game really early as far as synth manufacturers. So they already know what they're going for as far as their own engine is concerned in tone and their digital modeling and analog modeling.
Yeah, this is a late generation of their stations there.
And which the bass station is like a hip hop, cornerstone. So like being able to have those sort of features, and then on top of it all, having all these other cool things that make it like, hey, I can recall Native Instrument B3 patch data.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Right.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That doesn't happen on the tone port. The tone port is a lazy, I want to be competitive sort of thing. This is something I would recommend to your friend who's a guitarist and go, hey, you want a keyboard? Get that. It'll be so much easier for you. You plug and play. You got, those features already there.
Right. Except this doesn't have tube emulation.
No tube emulation.
There might be some tube.
You never know.
But there is auxiliaries.
Auxes.
No, auxiliaries.
So next, we've got the API DSM24 summing mixer.
This is very exciting.
Let's check it out.
So this is the API DSM24, a digital summing mixing system, which for all practical purposes is an API console in a rack. It's really designed as a package to make mixing outside of a digital audio workstation easier. You have a meter bridge that has the same quality of meters as our $500,000 API consoles, the legacies and the Vision consoles. You have a center section of an API analog console. We call it the 7800. It gives you all the center section controls of a console. You have the
How much is it? How much is it? How much is it?
That's a thing.
Ah.
What was the here? Maybe I can check.
ask. I can't afford it. That my toes just went numb.
Continue discussing.
My toes just went. I'm serious. Like this, it's so exciting.
Right.
It's one step closer to being able to afford like a home studio and really have it be something that's worth bragging about.
Right. And competitive.
And not have to like sit there and wonder how the heck I'm gonna like get a freaking SSLE series at like 22 grand. And, I mean, if this thing's even 22 grand, it's worth it.
It's nice. All you need is that entire system and say, a Pro Control or something like that, and you're good.
Yeah.
Well, you don't really need. See, you don't need a desk.
No, you don't. You don't need a desk. You can. I mean, I had a desk for a while, and I never used it. All I'd use is my mouse.
Okay, so what was the name of that thing?
The API DSM24.
16 grand.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I was thinking in the neighborhood of 24. That's even cheaper. Like, all right, a vintage SSL runs like 20. All right.
Yeah.
A really crappy SSL and it's small, runs like 10. This is a good deal for 16 grand.
Well, that is the retail price. You probably can get it for less off, just street price. I mean, this kind of stuff is awesome. All the big dogs are doing it. Chandler, Daking, Neve. I got my eyes on another one though.
What's
it's
this?
The Shadow Hills Equinox. It's a summing box. It's got 34 channels. 2 of them are mic pre's.
That's cool.
But it's a passive summing box. And that thing, that's 4,000.
Okay.
And
So, yeah,
I got my eye on that.
That makes sense as far as like, but I love the API sound. Like API's channel strips.
Well, they're classic
God.
consoles.
They are. I mean, like them and Neve are 2 of my favorite like colorations in sound.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the coloration, but also just like the fact that you're summing an analog through something so nice.
Yeah, exactly. And like so you do all your stuff in Pro Tools, and then you can just run out different mixes of this thing, and you can sum it and get a good 2-track mix going back into Pro Tools that will really just
Yeah. For me, working out of the box is just like a completely different process. You get so much more like depth of field.
Oh yeah.
Things aren't fighting for the ear. The different elements, aren't fighting for the ears. Like things can be going on. It's just more of a.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if it's the analog smearing, distortion, whatever, but it's good.
Theoretically, like when you mix in Pro Tools, like it's hard to cut space for each thing. I mean, like you have to do the surgeon sort of theory where you're like sitting there and you're like, well, I got to roll off 4K on my guitar right here to make room for this vocal, and then I got to roll up 2K on this guitar to make it sound like it's 2 guitars instead of just one. And you get a lot of masking and a lot of weird stuff going on that it's really hard to mix in digital. So that's why you get this kind of like weird phase at some mixes, where it just kind of goes. If you don't, I sometimes I mix through computer speakers just to see how it's going to be heard 90% of the time through most people. And like a lot of the times, like when you're mixing on not so many channels, I don't use like 24 channels a lot for my solo stuff. I use like 6 at most.
Right.
And there's like a weird kind of, you can weirdly phase on computer speakers that kind of just creates this weird kind of like cycling, and it's like it can be cut out in areas like the beginning on your 60 cycle hum and whatnot. But like when you sum analog, when I've done mixes on analog summing with just 2 channels, the voices clear up because I think the circuitry just knows how to deal with the frequency, separation and like stuff like that. I don't have a technical explanation because I'm not an electrical engineer.
Well, yeah, I mean it's just not enough bits, basically.
Yeah, analog is infinite, so
it just sounds better when everything is electrons, when it's getting together as electrons. So my question is to both of you guys: you have 16 grand. Do you get this, or do you get other stuff, or different summing mixer? Do you get a summing mixer at all?
Well, yeah. This would be the my other question. I mean, if you can, if we got a little bit of time, let's take a look at like what a vintage SSL would cost. Like nothing too crazy, just around the same price.
Personally, I don't know if I'd spend 16 grand on this, but 95% of the records I do are hip hop.
Yeah.
Most, like all of my clients are hip hop artists, and I may lose a client or two in saying this, but the final output, it doesn't really have to be that magical. It just has to sound good on a dance floor or in a car speaker. The bass has to sound right.
But for your
me,
ears,
for my own,
buy it for you.
I would drop 16 grand and not even blink, just because I know how much the gear to get to that level costs. You know what I mean? Like old Pultec EQs, Manleys, things like that. Like all your outboard gear, you'll spend 16 grand and you won't even have dropped a breath of like what you would need in analog channels. You know what I mean?
Then you have to wait 10 weeks for everything to come in.
Exactly, because I got to build it. And like that's the deal, is that like I would do 16. Now this may not be appropriate for hip hop. All right, like that just may not be the API has never been a real popular hip hop console. Period.
Right.
SSL, I would say get some J like bus compressors, and I don't know if they're going to do a summing box, but you could probably get somebody to build it for you around the same price.
The Equinox, I've heard some hip hop put through it. Sounds excellent.
Yeah, but
I mean that's the main thing about what type of music I'm doing with a lot of my clients. Their interest isn't to make art. Their interest is to make money, to sell a lot of records. And with that, there doesn't need to be a lot of magic in it. It doesn't need to be art so much. But myself as an engineer, I want to be able to put my name on it and be proud of it.
What would you spend your 16 grand on then?
Oh man.
See, now here's the thing.
In my own studio as it is right now,
yeah.
Just mostly mics, preamps, and compressors.
See, but
just
that's
processing on the front end.
You spend 16 grand on this. Spend another 4,000 on mics if you actually are bringing in enough business. I mean, this will up this just alone because it looks cool. Will up your business.
See, and that actually goes back to, we're kind of getting off here a bit here, but that goes back to the you mentioned about having a control surface, having a desk if that's really necessary.
It does look pro.
I had one for like 9 months, a year, and I never touched it. But when clients came into my studio and saw it,
they would.
That was a Tascam 24, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I started using that again too because people like it. They're like, whoa.
Wow, you got a great studio.
It's not doing much.
No.
Like when I was working at Larrabee, they were, everything's run through Pro Tools, and they actually do mix on the, Neves and stuff like that. But like, here's the thing: is that like they knew they didn't have to.
Right.
You know what I mean? They set everything in Pro Tools up at Unity, and they said, whatever, we'll just mix on the and get real gain and stuff like that. And these engineers would think, but you could totally just like have that thing there, and they'd still make the same amount of money with the hip hop clients. The engineers would be completely mad. But you could mix through Pro Tools and just have that thing just sitting there as like a warm up sound, and people would pay $1,200 a day just to sit there.
Well, we've got one more video to take a look at. We've got the Italia Guitars from Summer NAMM. Let's take a look at those.
Ooh.
Okay, we're talking about Italia Guitars today. And Italia Guitars are designed by Trev Wilkinson. Trev has been known for many, many years. He's a well-known guitar designer. They use all of his components. Wilkinson bridges, Wilkinson pickups have been used as OEM products for a lot of different guitar manufacturers. And Italia Guitars are manufactured in Korea, all designed by Trev. The Italia name is derived from some of the original designs of the 60s, the Italian designs of the 60s, such as the EKOs.
I'd rather talk more about API than these guys. This is really kind of meh.
What do you guys think?
They're kind of vintagey, kind of cool. Pretty much like around $700. There's a bass that's like $750. Most of the Mondial $700. I think most of the others are $500.
I think I saw one at like $350, $399.
Yeah, and you can get them used for less.
Yeah,
a lot.
Supposedly
they sound pretty good. They got a piezo pickup,
right?
And they're made in Korea.
Piezo. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just think that as far as if you're going to buy one of these things new, you should just probably check the used shop for an old Echo or something of that nature. because you can get those for like $250 to $500, depending on what model and how many people wanted. I mean, I've almost gotten airlined hollow bodies for like, $250 because nobody else wanted them. And then like I walked into a guitar shop in Chicago. This was back in LA when I was out there. And I walked in a guitar shop here and they were trying to sell it for $500. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, it just depends. The vintage market and the reason why this company exists depends on the axiom of like what is cool, I guess, on the perception of it. So, I mean, this is really like, I'd really say look into some other guitars maybe first. If you can't get the one that was a national body style, basically an old National Supro, that was cool because you can't, nobody wants to sell them for cheap anymore. They're like $1,000 because they saw Jack White play one. So that's a good deal there. But the rest of them,
I like the use of P90s.
Yeah, that was awesome. I give them credit on that one. I wanted it in the middle though. Like I'd like to have the P90 in the middle instead of at the bridge.
Yeah. I think it's cool to have a P90 in the bridge position. You don't see many guitars like that.
No, not at all. That was pretty really rad.
Oh, cool. Well, let's move on. We've got the Gearwire Crosstalk special showcase of the week. This week we're going to take a look at some free effects plugins. First of all, we've got the Resonator, which is a real-time...
Reversinator.
We've got the Reversinator, which is a real-time reverse effect. It's a basic one-button GUI. It's actually a pretty sweet little piece. So let's take a look at that first.
All right.
Okay, I don't think I actually have... Well, let's see. Okay. I don't have the effect on here just yet. This is a really, really simple effect. And we'll have a link so you can download this on our XML page. I got so many plugins on here, it takes a while to get to the bottom. Here we go. All right, so this is Reversinator. It's the simplest GUI I've ever seen. So we have the poly-iblet going through here, which is another free plugin. So I've deactivated the Reversinator. All right, that's the sound we're getting. So basically, it's just like taking little buffered samples and switching them around. We could also put it like on a drum track. Just gonna move it over here. So I'll play you the drum track. Reversinator on.
Nice.
It's pretty cool. Like I also like to
for those into that whole Beastie Boys Paul Revere.
I also like to put it on an aux. I'll just create an aux over here. Move it. Then let's use the vocal track. This is singer for my band, Hawk Coleman. He's got quite a voice on him. Let's just do that. So what I've done is I put the Reversinator on a bus, and now I'm putting a send on here so that it's sending it to the bus. It's sort of like a weird non-linear delay. So here's the dry signal, and I'll bring in the effect bus.
I was hoping for something beautiful, something wild and untamed.
Cool.
So like a little bit goes a long way with this. So yeah.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, you can do some weird stuff with that. But yeah, that's the Reversinator. It's a really, really simple plugin. I like it because of that. A lot of these free plugins are, and they're easy to use and just simple. But yeah, that's the Reversinator.
Cool.
It's from NDC Plugs.
All right.
Next up, we've got the plugin suite from Digitalfishphones, the Fish Fillets, quote unquote. First of all, the Blockfish, which is a color compressor. Next, the Floorfish, an expander gate. And last, the Spitfish, which is a side channel compressor for de-essing. Let's take a look.
Okay, we'll start out with the Blockfish on a drum loop. All right, so here we go. Here's our drum loop. Actually, I'll just loop that. All right, so here's Blockfish. It's a colored compressor. You got both VCA and opto. I really like using this on drum loops in particular, or any kind of loops, because it's got a saturation knob. You turn that up. You kind of hear how it's just
Sure.
sort of adding some overtones and distortion.
Right.
But I like the opto compression on drum loops. Well, we got a low cut, an air button. You can also bypass, so it's nice because you can then automate that. We're gonna put this into stereo mode because this is a stereo sample. Let's start turning up the compression. You can hear how it's doing that. Make it real fast and just totally.
It's really messing with these cymbals.
Well, yeah, I got it. It's slamming the compressor right now, but that little, and then slow it down a little bit. So the speed basically, it's like an attack release sort of thing. And it's kind of true to opto compression design because the attack and the release are sort of together. They're not separate.
Yeah, but this
settings.
This plugin is, when you slam it, I mean, it really.
Yeah.
Well, no, this is just from an engineering standpoint. You really like that cymbal is nasty.
yeah, it's making it pretty nasty. I also have the saturation up. You can turn that down a bit.
Still doing it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. All right. So we also got the VCA circuit. It's a little cleaner, but you can still sort of add some saturation. You can do the low cut as well. And now the interesting thing about this is there's also a little switch over here that you can open it up.
Nice.
I'll close it back down and turn on this air. You can change the level of air. I'm not sure exactly what that's doing. I'm thinking that's like a little peak. You're like a resonance peak or something like that.
Right.
And you can change the frequency. It's kind of hard to hear. You can also change the low cut frequency. You can change the amount of opto memory, and that's basically going to control, because when you have an opto compressor, the amount of level over the threshold will control basically the release time. And this, if you turn this up, it'll affect it a bit more. So if we put it in opto mode, turn it back down.
Okay.
You can hear this. You can hear the change pretty easily there. Saturation empty freak, not sure exactly what that does, and dynamic saturation. You can hear that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to put it on bass really quick so we can hear what it does on bass. I use it on bass.
It's a really cool little plug.
Yeah, and it's very low amount of overhead on your CPU. I keep on forgetting to solo. Here we go. All right, let's bring up this Blockfish. It actually has a preset called Studio Bass Guitar. I think we had. Oh, it looped.
Yeah.
You can't complain when it's free, but still.
Yeah. I mean, for a free plugin, it's pretty nice. Also, one thing that all these plugins do, you see the meter right here.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how much I turn that up, actually, no matter how much I turn up the output on here, it's a brick wall. It acts as a brick wall limiter, and you can see right now it's not allowing it to go over. That might be easier to see on the drum loop. Okay. Well, if it's too loud, I can turn you down a little bit.
No, it's just that high, like when the hi-hat opens.
Yeah. Okay, so that should be going over. It's got a brick wall limiter built in. All the plugins have that.
Oh, that's good.
Let's
Great.
move it on.
So it's actually 2 stages then.
Yeah. It's got the compressor and also the limiter. But these other ones, these are all dynamic plugins. We go back to the vocals and check out Floorfish.
Gotcha.
So actually, I put Floorfish on every single crosstalk that we do.
Do you?
Yeah, because to sort of get the noise of the room out, and
so that's what makes us sound so beautiful.
yeah, well,
Nice.
it's part of it. We also have a lot of compression and EQ. But Floorfish is a gate. These are all dynamic plugins, but this is the gate. The interesting thing about this one is it has a side chain, a tunable side chain, basically, and you can listen to I have it on listen right now, so we're hearing what's going to the side chain, what's triggering the gate. Usually up around here is where I set it so that it catches, if I'm using it, it catches the consonants, the beginning consonants.
Okay.
So if we stick it over here, you'll be able to hear in the pauses some attenuation. and it's either gate or it could also be used as an expander. So
In the pouring, driving rain.
not sure if you can hear that.
Look inside a crystal ball and tell me, is it true what you see?
It's got a soft knee. You can set the sensitivity.
Something beautiful could make everything
Flip in there.
change.
So you can see it's just going right in there.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the Floorfish, another simple plugin. But there's some options in there that are pretty nice. And we also got Spitfish, the de-esser. And now the sibilance isn't a problem on this track because of the mic I used. I always record Hawk, and he really doesn't have a problem with sibilance on this particular mic that I'm using.
Okay.
But basically, I can make him lisp with this.
I said women will love you. They will love you and change their minds in 30 days.
So this track doesn't really need it, but it actually does a pretty good job. It's also sidechain de-esser.
Right.
So
I really need.
yeah, another simple plugin, just a
Nice.
utility for basically if you have a problem with sibilance. That's what that's for.
Now, do you have commercial plugins at home as well too that you would use these over? Like,
The Spitfish, that's probably my go-to de-esser if
Okay.
there's a problem with it. Floorfish is my go-to gate.
yeah.
Blockfish, I will use like during a session,
Okay.
like while recording to get things.
But not in a mix.
Not usually in a mix.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the reason I use it during a session is because it's low, it's easy on the CPU.
Okay.
Also, it prevents the clipping.
Right.
I've used it in mix. I use it if I want to dirty up a bass.
So far, I kind of like. I really don't like that compressor though.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
it's just a personal.
cer-
it's just a personal taste thing, you know.
Certain drum loops I think sound really good through it too,
I didn't like what it was doing. to
or
the signal.
like hip hop loops, things like that. Maybe that don't have cymbals in it.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been also just like that's how the loop was mixed. It's a Big Fish audio loop.
Okay, but I mean
Gotcha.
that compression though, like really messed with that. Like hearing the original.
Well, any compression is really gonna do that, except for like the really transparent ones or the multi-band ones.
Yeah,
Once you start compressing like a full
like
drum mix,
an LA2A doesn't really do that badly.
LA2As I think do mess with the
They do mess with the signal
cymbals a bit.
but I don't think they didn't phase the cymbals as the
Well,
same
what they
way.
do maybe is better.
Yeah.
It's just you like it.
Yeah, I that's why I was saying this is really a very personal critique about like the way I like my compressors to sound. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really defending it. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to, for people who don't know, like that's going to happen.
Right.
Whenever you're slamming a drum mix, into a
Limiters,
compressor.
anything, even bass will things will happen to it. Just get used to it, guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, next we've got the SIR, which is a free impulse reverb plugin.
Yeah,
and
this-
this excites me.
This
I hadn't
one-
heard of this.
Yeah, this one it's free impulse reverb, which I think is pretty damn cool.
Absolutely. Is there a user community behind it with lots of impulses or?
On the download page, there is a link to some impulses, but you can find impulses all over the internet, like
Okay.
hundreds and hundreds, and you can make your own,
Nice.
which is pretty cool. Just like white noise, like you can put white noise through an effects generator, like a 50 millisecond burst.
Mm-hmm.
Record the output with 100% of the wet signal and no dry signal, and basically just edit it up, and you got yourself an impulse.
Nice.
But the impulses I have on here are all from Perfect Space, which is an impulse plugin that comes with Sonar, which is really nice. But we can use them in other applications such as SIR. So this one is kind of a CPU hog. I had to turn up the latency on here so that it would go. And I have loaded in an Aquafire Cave on this drum loop. See what it does. Okay, so that's the cave. Turn down the wet signal. Just turn it up a little bit. So yeah, basically, it does the impulse stuff. You can mess with your pre-delay.
Nice.
Yeah, that does that. Change the attack time, and it's actually changing the waveform in real time. You can change the length. Yeah, and let's try some other stuff. Dead Horse Point is one of the ones that I like. It actually sounds like it's outside.
Yeah, nice.
Wow.
But yeah, those are from the Great Outdoors sort of bank. We can try some. Let's go to the Real Spaces over here. We can stick it inside of a live room of Noise Vault Studio. We will do main room. That's a Pro Studio live room.
Sure.
Kind of convincing. What do you think, Britton?
Not bad.
Not bad at all. I mean, it sounds like
Turn it
something
up a
that
little bit.
see it like in your home in Nashville. I mean, it does seem. That's a big room to put your drums through, though.
Well, I mean, you can also turn down the wet signal.
Nice.
That sounds about
This
right.
is a really nice plugin.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
So yeah, for free, you can get yourself a impulse response reverb SIR.
I know what I'm doing when I get home.
That's awesome.
Sweet. So next, actually last, we've got the Scrubby, which is quite a bizarre effect.
Yeah.
And also, are we going to take a look at the
Yeah, we can check out the
Geometer?
Geometer. Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
So Scrubby is basically, again, a buffer-based synth, time-based synth. It takes little snippets of the sound, records them into memory, and then basically either stretches them, speeds them up, changes the note. And there's some interesting stuff. I'm not sure which sample we should put through. I guess the drum one will work fine.
Sure.
You can see what it does.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
like DFX, the DestroyFX
Yeah.
interfaces. They kind of get a cool feel.
I'm going to turn this down a little bit just
Sure.
because it's kind of crazy plugin. You never know what it's going to do right off the bat if you're trying out signal you haven't tried before. All right. So it's kind of doing a cut up.
Right.
So there's a bunch of different, you can choose like different notes. This would make more sense if we had a harmonic source.
Right.
You can set the octave, so if we make a smaller window, it'll stay right around there.
Right.
You can change the seek rate. And it'll constantly be changing between these boundaries. You kind of set these boundaries, so if we set it over here, it'll go really slow.
Right.
You can also sync it up with your host. So right now, we're at 110, because that's the speed that
Okay.
it's kind of doing. Actually, let me turn that down to the tempo down to 110 or thereabouts. It's kind of staying more in sync.
Apex Twin must have used this a lot, huh?
Yeah,
Part of the-
yeah.
See, that's part of the problem I have with the DFX plugins is it's really hard to keep them in control.
Yeah.
Well,
And they can do really cool things, but it's like getting what you want out of it is not always logical.
Yeah, it's like
But
this is more of a if you have some time to mess with it, then you'll do that.
Or you're looking for doing that weird kind of IDM noise thing where you need some random application.
That's what I use this for. I'm
Right.
rarely doing this for like a cohesive mix. If I just need some crazy noise, this is one of the tools that I pull out. It was set in robot mode.
Okay.
For that. There's also a mode called DJ mode. So instead
Here
of
we go.
doing stepping, it's sort of gliding.
Okay.
Sort of turning it like up a portamento switch or a portamento knob on a synth. So let's see what the difference is. I'm going to start in robot and then switch to DJ. Okay, so we're back. We're in robot. Let's switch to DJ.
Right. I hear that.
So it's a bit different.
Let's take a look at Geometer.
Yeah.
Scrubby's pretty wild though.
Okay. I have not used Geometer. I believe you have, so
Yep.
I'll let you take the controls.
Now it's been quite a while since I've used this, but okay.
So this is bit crusher, is it?
Yeah, it's basically a bit crusher, but again, the way their system works is not entirely. But
I like the labels. How to mess them up. How to generate landmarks. How to mess them up. It's pretty cool.
Like a really advanced bandpass filter.
I've got some great drum patterns I programmed at home and ran through here and gotten some really cool effects when I do some of my glitch hop.
I like the display. You can actually see what's going on there.
Again, it's been a while since I've used this, but
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. The frozen sound.
if you play with the level, you can usually balance it. It's kind of like a dry-wet control, but you can actually get some good feel out of it.
This is from Smartelectronics DestroyFX page. There's lots of cool effects on there, as with most of the other effects we've looked at today.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of cool stuff. And on the Gearwire Crosstalk homepage, we'll have links to each of those as well. If you want to take a look at those, download them and use them yourself.
Go to the forums.
Yep. Check out the forums as well.
Forums as well.
A lot of these are discussed there. So you
Send
can
hate
take a
mail.
look at that.
Talk.
Yeah, and if you
all
have
hate
any mail you want to send us, any hate mail, we love hate mail. We're gonna actually post some of that on the web as well. Send it to crosstalk@gearwire.com, and we will be able to get back to you.
All right, guys.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. That concludes the Crosstalk podcast for Friday, August 11th. Be sure to visit us at gearwire.com and be sure to tune in again for hard-hitting reviews, how-tos, news, and the rest of the fun stuff from our friends Dan, Britton, and Drew. We miss you as well.
We're signing off.
All right, thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Later.